There it is in the distance, can you see it? It's Eilish Castle. As I approached the ancient engineering marvel, my heart began to race with excitement. The structure loomed ahead of me, massive and imposing, with towering stone walls that seemed to reach up to the sky. The castle was situated on a hill, surrounded by a deep moat filled with crystal-clear water. A drawbridge spanned the moat, leading up to the massive wooden doors that formed the entrance to the castle. The walls of the castle were made of grey stone, rough and weathered from years of exposure to the elements. Turrets jutted out at intervals, each one topped with a conical roof and a fluttering blue flag. As I drew closer, I could see the intricate carvings that adorned the stone walls. There were gargoyles perched on the edges of the roof staring down at me. They were odd-looking gargoyles, completely unlike anyone that I've seen before. It's almost as if they're laughing and dancing instead of the traditional mean snarl that you usually see. The windows beneath them were narrow and tall, with leaded glass panes that glinted in the sunlight. The castle was surrounded by a sprawling courtyard, filled with lush green grass and neatly trimmed hedges. There were benches scattered throughout the courtyard, offering a place for visitors to rest and take in the beauty of the property. I stood there for a moment, taking in the sight before me. The castle was a masterpiece of architecture and engineering, a true demonstration of the skill and creativity of the people who had built it. I felt a sense of wonder and awe wash over me, and knew that I was about to embark on an adventure that would be unforgettable. As I began my fantasy journey inside the structure, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement building within me. The air was filled with the sounds of revelry and the tantalizing aroma of roasting meats and spiced wines. Just beyond the castle gates I was met with a breathtaking sight, the Great Eilish Hall. What a sight to behold! The high-vaulted ceiling was supported by thick stone columns, and was adorned with intricate carvings and painted frescoes that depicted scenes from epic battles and legendary tales. Huge chandeliers hung from the ceiling, their flickering candlelight casting a warm and welcoming glow over the room. The walls were lined with rich tapestries, each one depicting a different scene from the castle's history or the legends of the land. The long tables that stretched the length of the hall were covered with white linen tablecloths and adorned with glittering silverware and polished golden goblets. The table settings were arranged with precision, each one featuring a collection of dishes that were as beautiful as they were delicious. At the head of the hall sat a great stone fireplace, which crackled and spat as logs burned brightly within it. The mantel was adorned with a collection of impressive trophies and artifacts, including an astonishingly beautiful long sword. It was said that the sword had belonged to one of the castle's most famous knights, a brave and noble warrior who had fought in many battles and defended the castle against countless enemies. Legend had it that the knight had received the sword as a gift from a powerful wizard who had recognized the young knight's courage and valor. The sword was said to be imbued with magical properties, and it was believed to bring good luck and fortune to its owner. Over the years, the sword had been passed down from generation to generation, becoming a treasured family heirloom that was revered and respected by all who saw it. It had been wielded in countless battles, each one adding to the sword's legend and mystique. As the castle grew and expanded, the sword became a symbol of the castle's power and prestige. It was displayed prominently in the Great Hall, where all could see it and marvel at its beauty and history. Despite its age and the wear and tear of battle, it remained in remarkably good condition. Its blade shone with a bright sheen, and its hilt was adorned with intricate engravings and gems that sparkled in the candlelight. As the guests of the medieval castle celebrated the night away, they couldn't help but steal glances at the sword that sat atop the great fireplace. They knew that it was a symbol of the castle's rich history and the bravery of its knights, and they felt honored to be a part of the castle's ongoing legacy. Despite the grandeur of the hall, there was a sense of warmth and camaraderie that pervaded the space. Guests mingled freely, sharing stories and laughter over plates of steaming food and goblets of rich red wine. As I stood in the great hall, taking in the sights and sounds around me, I couldn't help but be overwhelmed at the amount of history and tradition that was woven into every inch of the space. It was a truly remarkable setting for a celebration that would long be remembered. Venturing deeper into the castle, I was met with a throng of people dressed in their finest attire, laughing and chatting animatedly. The sound of lutes and harps filled the air, weaving a magical spell that had everyone entranced in a state of joy. The people in the castle were a diverse mix of individuals, each one dressed in their finest attire. The knights wore suits of armor adorned with shining plate and chainmail, while the ladies wore flowing gowns in rich, jewel-toned fabrics. Despite their different backgrounds and social standings, the guests mingled freely, sharing stories and laughter over plates of food and glasses of wine. The atmosphere was one of camaraderie and warmth, with everyone enjoying the celebration to its fullest. Some of the guests were joking and teasing each other, their laughter echoing through the hall. One group of knights were telling tales of their latest battles, boasting about their victories and mocking their rivals. Another group of ladies were admiring each other's dresses, commenting on the intricate embroidery and beautiful fabrics. The tables were laden with an abundance of food, including platters of roasted meats, bowls of steaming vegetables, and baskets of freshly baked bread. There were flagons of frothy ale and pitchers of spiced wine, which the guests enjoyed in between bites of food and lively conversation. As the night wore on, the guests began to dance and sing, their joyous voices filling the great hall with music and laughter. Even the most reserved guests couldn't resist the infectious energy of the celebration, and soon everyone was caught up in the revelry. The music that was being played in the medieval castle was a lively and energetic mix of traditional folk tunes and upbeat melodies. The sounds of flutes, lutes, and drums filled the great hall, creating a festive and joyous atmosphere. The guests of the castle couldn't help but feel their toes start to tap and their bodies sway to the rhythm. Soon, groups of guests had formed on the dance floor, their feet moving in unison as they twirled and spun to the music. The dancers were dressed in their finest attire, their flowing gowns added to the elegance and grace of the movements. The knights moved with a confident strength, their suits of armor clanking as they spun their partners around the dance floor. The ladies, in turn, swayed and twirled with grace and poise, their laughter and joyful cries echoing through the hall. The dance floor was alive with energy and motion, with guests of all ages joining in the revelry. Even those who had never danced before found themselves swept up in the excitement, their feet moving in time with the music as they laughed and spun around the room. As the night wore on and the music grew louder, the dancing became more exuberant and wild. The guests threw themselves into the rhythms, their bodies moving in a frenzied display of joy and celebration. It was a truly magical moment, as the music and dance brought the guests of the medieval castle together in a shared sense of happiness and community. The night was one that would be remembered fondly for years to come, a testament to the enduring power of music and dance to bring people together in celebration. I felt as if I had stepped into a fairy tale, surrounded by knights in shining armor and damsels in beautiful gowns. Everywhere I looked, there was something new to marvel at, from the flickering torches to the gleaming suits of armor displayed on the walls. Needing a break from the festivities, I decided to explore the medieval castle further and climb up the winding staircase that led to the tower room where the king slept. As I reached the top, I found myself standing in a small, circular room with a low ceiling and stone walls that were adorned with intricate tapestries. The room was sparsely furnished, with only a simple wooden bed, a small chest, and a small table with a single candle standing upon it. But what caught my attention was the window. It was the largest window I had seen in the castle so far, and it provided an amazing view of the countryside below. I approached the window and gazed out at the sweeping vista before me. The rolling hills and fields stretched out for miles, bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun. In the distance, I could see the lights of a nearby village, and the glittering waters of a stream that cut through the property. As I leaned out the window, the cool breeze played across my face, carrying with it the scent of fresh grass and wildflowers. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply, taking in the fresh country air. When I opened my eyes, I saw that the sky had turned a deep shade of purple, and the first stars had begun to twinkle in the night sky. It was then that I realized that the tower room was a perfect spot to witness the night sky. I stayed there for a few more minutes, lost in the beauty of the landscape and the peacefulness of the moment. Finally, I tore myself away from the window, feeling grateful for having the opportunity to witness such a breathtaking view. I made my way back down the winding staircase, feeling a sense of peace and wonder at the beauty of the countryside and the majestic castle that overlooked it. After a few twists and turns, I found myself in a large room filled with statues and paintings of the Eilish family. The room was dimly lit, and the only light came from the candles placed strategically around the room. The statues were of various sizes and shapes, depicting the kings and queens of the past, each one sculpted with great skill and artistry. Their expressions were stern and imposing, as if they were keeping watch over the castle and its inhabitants. The paintings, on the other hand, were much more colorful and vibrant. They depicted the royal family in various poses, from formal portraits to playful scenes of the children playing in the gardens. The colors were rich and deep, and each brushstroke was masterfully executed. I stopped in front of one particularly striking painting, a portrait of a queen who had ruled the castle many years ago. She was depicted wearing a regal gown, her hair piled high on her head and a look of serene calm on her face. I couldn't help but wonder what her life had been like, and how she had managed to hold on to power in such a tumultuous time. As I continued to explore the room, I found myself lost in thought, contemplating the lives of the people who had once lived within the castle walls. It was a humbling experience, to be surrounded by such powerful reminders of the past, and it left me feeling grateful for the opportunity to witness the castle's history firsthand. After many hours of celebrating, exploring, and admiring, it was time for me to move along. As I left the castle, a feeling of contentment washed over me. The castle had been a magnificent place, full of history and beauty, and I was grateful for the opportunity to explore it. I walked for a while, following a path that led away from the castle and into the rolling hills beyond. As I climbed higher, the castle grew smaller and smaller in the distance. Finally, I found a comfortable spot to rest, a small hillside with a stunning view of the castle in the distance. I lay down on the grass, feeling the cool breeze brush against my face, and closed my eyes. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but think about the castle and all the history that it contained. I imagined the people who had once lived within its walls, the kings and queens who had ruled the land, and the knights who had fought to protect their honor. What an amazing experience!